Welcome to Wrestling with Fitness, a monthly accountability podcast collaboration of the For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network and Shotgun Wrestling Radio. Here are your hosts, Shotgun Wrestling Radio's Zach Takis and the Wizard CZ from the card, Subject to Change.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Wrestling with Fitness. I am the Wizard CZ, part of Card Subject to Change podcast on the For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network, and I want to give them a big shout-out real quick here. Thank them for allowing Zach and I to host the show here on their network, and of course, that brings me right to my tag team partner for this adventure, Mr. Zach Takis. Zach, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm feeling good, man. It's Sunday. I just had a weird little glitch. Everybody kind of froze on me for a second there. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good, man. It's Sunday and the start of a new week, so I'm ready to rock and roll. We got a really special guest on here this week. Former wrestler for Impact Pro Wrestling, wrestled a lot of years here in the Iowa independent scene, and now he's a bodybuilder and fitness trainer, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to bring him on here. And of course, we know him as one and only Mr. Nicky. Nicky, my friend, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Zach. It's so great to see you, man.
Absolutely, brother. It's been quite a long time since we've done a pod together, man.
Oh, yeah. You know, what was the first year that I met you, dude? You and Zach?
Oh, maybe
20.
I started going to the Hall of Fame show in 2012.
I think 2012 that's a long time, dude.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about those old times, dude. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, but yeah, dude, let's go ahead and, what kind of, you were talking here briefly. Well, Chris and I will kind of briefly talk about our journeys here and kind of what led us to start.
Right. I was interested in your fitness journey, Zach, because I know it's something that you've been working on a lot. I see your updates all the time on Instagram, your accountability posts, and, I just wanted to know what kind of sparked that in you and what got you started on that journey, man.
So I know it was last summer sometime. I was like, I think I kind of want to get back going to the gym. And I did that for a few months. Then the holiday season hit and I kind of fell off again. And then sometime probably in December, I weighed myself and I was about pushing 280. And I was like, ooh, that ain't good for a guy my size. So, and I was like, once the new year hit, I was like, we're going to start hitting it hard again. And I kind of came up with just, hey, I'm going to do accountability posts thinking it'll hold me accountable to do these type of posts. And
it does kind of work because people start watching you. And so now you're not just accountable to yourself. You have these people that are behind you that expect that from you online, and they see that. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. When I was just telling Chris here earlier, I was at the gym this morning and I was doing my interval training. I do like a 2-minute run, a 2-minute walk, and I got off the treadmill. I was going to get a paper towel to wipe down the treadmill. And a gal, a couple more treadmills down, kind of stopped me. She's like, "Hey, every time I see you in here and I see you running, it always helps kick me into high gear." So I was like, "Okay, that was pretty cool."
Other people will see you working, man.
Yeah.
And it'll make them, Yeah,
and right now I'm down about 20 to 25 pounds since the start of the new year, and hoping to get down another 25 to 30 by the time I go see my doctor again in July. So,
yeah, I'm sure your doctor will be happy about that too.
Yeah. She had put a goal for me at my last checkup for 230. So that's kind of my goal by the time I go see her again is 230. So
awesome.
And
now, how long have you two been doing this podcast together?
So
this is
when did we start, Chris? Yeah, I was gonna say we started February.
February, yep.
Yeah, because we both, and it's just kind of a once-a-month podcast because we're busy with our other shows. So we're like, hey, let's do this kind of on a monthly basis. And because, like I said, I started working out. Chris kind of started working out, and he had brought the idea up to me about, hey, what do you think about doing a podcast about our fitness journeys? And that's kind of how it all came together.
I think that will be valuable for people to watch because they can go along on the ride with you. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I'm kind of a start-stop guy, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it. I've been trying to break the cycle. I tried to do something similar to what Zach and I are doing back in fall of 2023, and my accountability partner was not very accountable and not very reliable.
Right.
So it caused me to just kind of fall off the wagon a bit, more than a bit.
Yes, and that's the important thing is, so you two have each other to keep each other accountable. But it is tough because you kind of got to be like a little discerning about the other people around you, right? Because they'll either help your progress and root for it, or they're going to be like, I don't want you to do better. Because, it's like, so you got to be careful with that, like the people that you're around. And it is hard with the start-stop stuff because, if you take a person out of their situation, like there's always a situation or something, their life. Say like we took us and put us in some camp where we're just around a bunch of people and all we're doing is focus on eating healthy and working out, and we're in this different, something like, they had The Biggest Loser or like a WWE NXT type of camp situation. We would probably all excel, right? You do well because of your surrounding. The problem is then when you go back, so the thing to do is to change your surrounding, your lifestyle to be more supportive of that. Because if we took us all and put us in a camp right now, we'd all see tremendous change. You know what I mean? But then you go back to the surrounding, your situations just in your normal life, and we'd lose it all just as fast.
Yeah.
So it's always about like setting up your life to be like that. You know what I mean? To facilitate that kind of thing.
Yeah. And well, for me, the biggest thing was getting in a routine. So like I said, at first it really started out with me doing just 3 days a week at the gym. So I started doing it 3 days a week, usually Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And then somewhere, I want to say maybe around March, I decided, we're going to try to exercise at least 6 days a week. And we're going to, the non-gym days, we're just going to do a 30-minute either treadmill walk or I'll take the dog for a 30-minute walk. Right. So that way you're still getting some movement. That's kind of been.
Well, and that's the thing is once the routine is set, it goes into motion and it can stay in motion. It's harder to get it started.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's almost like it has momentum, right? Like once you got the inertia and it's going, it's easier to stay in it. But I think that beginning part is the hardest part.
Yep.
Getting it set into a routine.
Yep.
Once you got some steam rolling in the thing, it's just going to keep going, right?
Yeah. We even said that the very first show we did, the hardest part is walking through those front doors of the gym. That's the hardest part, I think.
Yeah, people get a fear of the gym. You don't know the expectations. Luckily, most gyms, not all, there are some that are kind of, probably, but most people that work out have either been really out of shape at some point in their life or there's a reason. And most people are very supportive of anybody working hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think there's a fear at the beginning. And then once you realize as long as you're working hard, nobody's going to care about anything other than that. In fact, like you said, you're going to see people and you're like, wow, that girl, like she's inspired by what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like it's more supportive once you break that initial barrier, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of talk about your fitness journey, man. Because like I said, I know now you've been getting really into bodybuilding and your own fitness training. What kind of led you down the road from wrestler to bodybuilding and fitness training?
Yeah, man. So for me, I had been obviously wrestling since 2008 until 2017, because for IPW. And I decided, to move out to Seattle from Iowa, right? And that's probably the only real reason I kind of quit wrestling is because I moved out here and it wasn't like I had all these connections out here and it would have kind of been like starting over to wrestle, So I was in a spot where I was like, I was in my mid to late 30s and, I'd had put all that time into wrestling and obviously fitness is a huge part of wrestling, right? So but I got to a point where I was kind of like, almost felt like I was like an aging athlete a little bit, right? So like I was still kind of hitting it hard, still working out hard, but I just maybe wasn't as, and I was putting a lot of time into the band at the time too, right? Because I was playing in a band. So I was in a spot where I was kind of like, previously in life, I had gotten to some certain, physical capabilities because of wrestling. And, now I was getting to be a little older, kind of aging, where it's like you could kind of go down two different paths, right? You could kind of start going easier, but I didn't want to do that because I had known I knew what I was capable of because of wrestling. So I ended up meeting this guy named Jay. I was working in this bar, and this guy Jay started there, and he was a bodybuilder, and so me being an ex-wrestler and everything and always being into fitness, he was kind of the guy who was like, you should try, think about hiring a coach and, maybe doing a bodybuilding show. And I had never thought about that before, right? So Jay starts, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool, another lifter. And then next thing I know, I hire his coach, which is my coach, Jordan Hubbard. And, from all that energy that I used to put into wrestling and everything, there was no place for it to go, right? So you just like, I'm like, well, what do I do now? And then I started putting it into that. So I hired him. I think that was during COVID, and then that gave me kind of an outlet for what I like to do. And so then I started training with him. And then before long, I was like, I've been doing the, kind of known as like the fitness guy for like almost 20 some years. Like, why I should take this and teach other people how to do it, right? Everybody had always been like, you should be a trainer. You should do, I was kind of training people for free or just helping people anyway. So I decided during COVID to get certified as a trainer. And then after that, dude, it just kind of took off,
What for you so far, since you have been training and doing the bodybuilding? Let's start with the training first. Obviously, with you've been training, you probably see people all different shapes and sizes. Do you have a big success story that really stands out to you?
Yeah, definitely. There was a woman named Aurora Capone. She's one of my clients. Her and her husband both trained with me, and they were like in their 40s. They had both maybe been sort of athletic when they were younger, but you know how life gets when you get older. You just kind of don't do it as much. And it had been maybe 10 years. When she started with me, she lost like 30 pounds. I think we did it over like 3 months. And then she's been able to keep that off. That was a pretty good transformation, And then the majority of my clients are like tech workers, right? So kind of all of them are at like you said, different varying ages. I have younger people, I have older people, I have women, I have men. And so everybody's kind of transformation is kind of like dependent on them and their goals, right? So I have many people where it's like, they're starting, they get really consistent, and you'll start seeing like it happens really gradually. Like all of a sudden they start looking stronger, they'll start telling me like, oh, this feels lighter, or, but then for me as a trainer, since I see them every week, it's harder to notice. But then somebody else in their life will see them that hasn't seen them in a while. They're like, oh my God, and then like once in a while I do notice, I'll be like, whoa, bro, you're like starting to fill out. You know what I mean? Like, so it's crazy. It's really gradual. I think that's the biggest thing with fitness is patience.
Yeah. Yep.
We live in such a world where everything is so immediate. I can get online, I can watch whatever I want to watch. Mm-hmm. I can, we're like that with streaming. Dude, think about like wrestling. As a wrestling fan, we used to have to wait for things. Now we can just watch it whenever we want. We have like unlimited, So I think that remembering with the human body that, it takes a lot of time and consistency. And we can't have that immediate gratification. For this is the one spot where it doesn't work that way,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always constantly reminding Chris here. I'm like, remember, dude, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yes. No. Yeah. It's more about consistency than anything.
Yeah.
Right. That's the hard part about it too, because one of the hardest things to do is keep showing up for yourself when you don't feel like you're getting it. It gets really easy when you start seeing results. Yeah. When you start looking in the mirror and you look different, it motivates. But the hardest part is like, it's going to take a long time of almost feeling like you're getting nowhere, but you still have to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part, actually, And that's the hardest part. And I think that's why a lot of people quit too.
Yeah. Well, and for me, what I've noticed too, it really helps my mental health and my anxiety. So it's like, even if I'm not seeing it physically, I know when I go, I'm going to feel great mentally.
Right. And that's one thing. If you're only basing it off of like how you look or something, you're not going to get the reward immediately. Right. If like for that, it immediately will help you with depression, mental health, how you feel, just your energy balance. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that is something that can happen very fast with it. Yeah. Even a couple weeks, you start feeling better, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm trying. It's like I said, I'm notorious for starting and stopping and starting and stopping. It's been the hardest thing for me to get into any kind of routine, which I'm proud of Zach. I'm jealous of Zach because he's got a good routine. I just haven't gotten it yet, and it's hard.
Yeah, you got to use that as motivation.
Yeah.
So that's there's things. There's a thing in life where you can either get jealous of people or people that are better than you. You use them as like fuel. You either let them inspire you or you let them, make you angry. One or the other. It's like, so yeah, I always try to use that. Like if I see somebody in the gym that's like better than me or works harder than me, I'm like, oh, that's like, I'm not going to be jealous of that. I'm going to be like, that's motivation. That's what I want to like live up to. Right.
Right.
And that's one thing Zach at one point or multiple points has said, I'm at that point where I look forward to going to the gym. And that's where I want to be.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
And you got to find something that you do enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's like, they always say, like, what's the best like workout plan for me? It's like something you like. Yeah. Something that because that's going to make you go back to it again and again. Right.
Yeah. Like for me, I usually always will do usually 30 minutes cardio and then 30 minutes of weights. And I'm always kind of mixing up the weight circuits that I'm doing, but I usually always start out with a 30-minute cardio is what I usually always start out with.
Because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It warms you up. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing, dude. It's like, yeah, just look to those people like him and find other supportive people that are going to help you motivate you, keep you working towards that path, right?
Yeah. Oh, like, on the diet thing too, like for me, I don't feel like I've changed my diet a whole hell of a lot. Moderation has been key though, not overeating and portion control. Yep. And I mean, I'm definitely eating healthier too. I'm throwing in healthier choices, but yeah, a lot of it I've noticed is just portion control. And then I'll usually cut myself off before like 8 o'clock. Like after 8 o'clock, I'm not eating anything more until the next day.
Yeah, and I think you can get a really good start with, just making sure you drink enough water, getting a certain amount of steps in a day. So even like working out, it's not like you have to jump in and do like crazy stuff right away. You could start with like adequate sleep, walk a certain amount of steps per day and make sure you drink enough water. That's your first start. So you just added one thing. If you add too much stuff, you'll overwhelm yourself. So start with the basics first. Like I walked 10,000 steps today. I drank this much water and I got my sleep. Start there. Once that's locked in, then you can add another thing. I think a lot of times people try to like completely change their life and then they burn themselves out after 2 weeks, and it's like, it should be slow and progressive, all of it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First, I mean, again, it's the hardest part too, especially when it comes to like eating things. Like, okay, what's healthy but also still tastes really good? You know what I mean? You still want the shit to taste good, and it's like for me, I'm a big egg person. I can eat eggs every day. Like that's
Dude, eggs are one of the healthiest things you could possibly eat.
Yep.
That's why that when the egg prices were crazy, that was not fun, dude.
No, not at all.
There was like an egg shortage, dude. I was going to like the store and I'm like, oh my God, this is like COVID all over again. Like, all the toilet paper was gone. Now it's eggs. Like,
well, there for a while I was trying to get egg whites too, and I couldn't get egg whites. I'm like,
that was the thing that was gone, bro, was egg whites. Because I use a lot of egg whites too, being a bodybuilder. So
sure.
And it sucked because when there was that egg white shortage, I was buying eggs and throwing away all these yolks, and I felt so bad about wasting.
Yeah. So what I like to do in the mornings, I'll do 3 whole eggs and then 3 egg whites and scramble that up, and I'll usually do like some like wheat toast with it, along with like a turkey sausage or something like that. That's kind of been my breakfast.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's perfect.
So, and then I've always been a good water drinker. I have a 1 liter water bottle. I usually drink 2 or 3 of those a day.
Oh yeah. Yep. So that's always the start. And then from there, but yeah, I'd say, it is a big thing. Like with diet, it's a hard thing because a lot of times, with diet and eating, a lot of times it's like psychological. There's an underlying reason why people overeat. So sometimes it's like until you deal with those things, they've definitely done things where they've put people on, a certain diet and they're successful, but then like they have other issues with mental health or something, and they realize that they were using the food to cope with something. So you took away the food, their health got better, but then they realized like, oh man, the food was like, they were using it to cope with something. And then then they had all these issues come back and stuff like that. So it's tough, dude. It's like any other kind of drug. Food can kind of be a drug, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I'm right in that wheelhouse there. For me growing up, food was always there as a reward, there as, oh, you feel bad, here, have some food.
Right.
And not always the right choices.
Yes, and so the relationship with food gets kind of like messed up a little bit, right? I've had to be careful with that even with bodybuilding, like, because we do these shows where we get very, very lean.
Yeah.
And like you reward yourself after the show by overeating, and you have to be like, I don't know if that's a good thing to like, and I'm, we still do it because we get to eat like burgers and fries,
right,
and we get to eat cookies and ice cream, and we save it all for after the show. But I do think it's a little dangerous using it as a reward or like, I feel like it's relationship with food, and it's hard to get that to a good spot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't really have a good answer. That's different for everybody, right? How their relationship with food works. I do know things about food. Like I do know certain things like, the thing is like when you do eat certain kinds of food, it makes your body want them again and again and again because they're very addictive, almost like drugs, right? And the food companies create them this way. They make them highly satiating, low in nutrient value, and like very hyper palatable, right? And so you eat it and you want more of it. And so with diet, you can kind of do anything. Is like, with diet, it's basically calories in, calories out, right? So you have a calorie deficit is where you lose weight. If you're in a calorie surplus, you gain weight. So in theory, you could fit anything into your diet and still lose weight, right? Healthily. Right. The only problem with that is sometimes I do think certain foods tend to lead you to more overeating of those certain foods. So some of them, it is like you have to be a little careful with them, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you're right. When you say portion control, Zach, you're right on point. Like, it's not necessarily always that we're eating bad foods. It's just that we have such an abundance of food that we can kind of overeat on it all the time, which is causing, tons of chronic disease and, all these things. I believe actually more people now die from, issues that arise from having too much food versus starvation in the world, which is crazy. Because so more people die of overeating than starving right now, which is kind of a wild fact, right?
Right.
I believe it.
Well, and then especially too when you see how much cheaper it is for like fast food compared to going to the grocery store and buying, go to your fruits and veggies section and seeing how much expensive that stuff is. And it's like, well, shit, I can go get a burger and fries for $5.
It's hard, dude. It is hard because it's socioeconomic. So like, you do notice people that are more well off, they have the ability to eat healthier, and you see that. And it, when you're financially struggling, like I think about like we grew up in the 80s, right? And I do remember like when my parents were really young when they had us, and like the food that we grew up on was like, Pop-Tarts, Eggo waffles, TV dinners, like and then as we got a little older, my parents started doing better. I noticed the food quality did get better. But that's the thing is like it is cheaper to just kind of eat junkier food, right? Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not as rewarding. I mean, maybe when you maybe right at first, you get those endorphins from eating like the carbs and the junkier food right away. But which is my problem. I get that the instant gratification you were talking about earlier. But in the long run, it's not helping.
No, and what it does is it spikes your dopamine too. So your dopamine receptor, you get all messed up with dopamine because you're getting a dopamine hit every time, right? And that's why I do think it might be controversial, but I think like one step people could take is like, obviously going to like the keto route or just going like all carnivore for a while. And then once that's kind of set in, then you can add other foods back in because it's kind of like an elimination diet, right? So if you take out like most of the processed stuff right away, you're going to definitely feel better. It's just hard to do, right? You'd be eating like only eggs and meat. And that's it, and you see that's become kind of popular online now, right?
Yeah, it really has.
So you'll see all these like videos of just this big, like, cutting board, and it's just like steak, eggs, and like maybe some avocado. And dude, the thing is though, that is really healthy.
Yeah.
Like if you could just eat like that, it would definitely solve a lot of problems,
Yeah, it's because guys, I know like Eric Bischoff's been really big on the carnivore diet. Our last guest that we had on, Storm Thomas, he was really big on this carnivore diet. And yeah,
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think there's something to it, dude. Like,
yeah,
and especially when you talk about like depression and mental, like it's pretty hard to like, if that's all you're putting in your body, you're not giving it a lot of like issues. You're not giving it a lot of inflammation. You're not giving, it's going to be hard for your body to be bogged down if all you're giving it is that pure, clean fuel. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Dude, what do you think about Eric Bischoff? I love that guy.
I got a little news tip for you. I'm actually interviewing him on the wrestling pod next week.
Dude, that's amazing. See, Eric Bischoff, I've grown to like him more and more.
Yeah. Yep.
I just think he's such and he does make a lot of sense on things.
Yeah.
And I do think he would be a benefit to like many wrestling companies if they would listen to him a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, his show on the Ad Free Shows Network is one that I feel like I always listen to every week. Like some of them I'll skip over depending on the topic, but his I'm pretty much for sure always listen to every week.
Yeah, man. Because I know this isn't the wrestling podcast, but what did you think about WrestleMania?
Oh, so all right. My overall, and then we'll get Chris's opinion on this too.
Yeah, I want to hear both of you guys.
I thought night 2 overall was better than night 1. I thought the night 1 main event was better than the night 2 main event.
Bro, night 1 main event might be one of the greatest matches of all time.
Yeah, it was really good.
I was shocked. Like, I know those 3 are good, but dude, I felt like I was literally watching like, something that was like almost on par with like, Undertaker, Shawn from WrestleMania. What was that? 25.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, we're watching history here. Like, this is not just another match. Like,
yeah,
that was like made me think of like wrestling, like the greatest wrestling of all time.
Yeah.
And and like I think you're right. I think night 2 was better. The other stuff, and the Cena thing was cool. I get why some people didn't like it. With The Rock not being there and everything. I did like I liked the presentation of Cena. I liked how he came out with no video package.
Yeah, no special.
Black.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. Just the really clean production where it's just his name and it's dark. Like there was something cool about that. Yeah. I do think not having The Rock at the end was a little bit of a letdown, but to tie to Travis Scott. Yeah. So what did you think of it, dude?
I mean, I agree. Night 1 was not as good as night 2, but the main event, night 1, rocked. I thought the women's match, the triple threat on Sunday, is the best women's match that we've ever seen, in my opinion.
100% agree.
But as for Cena, I look at it this way, and I know a lot of people don't agree, but his goal is to ruin wrestling, and that's just another step in his plan to do so. Having The Rock not show up just fuels that fire even more.
Right, and I think it's one of those things where we're they say, hey, just sit and enjoy the ride type of thing. Like, we don't necessarily know what the story is or why they're doing it the way they're doing it, right? it had something to do with The Rock, and he wanted Cody's soul, and what I don't know. It is really a fun time to be a wrestling fan, though, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you got to say we're living through like the best wrestling since the Attitude Era right now.
Yeah.
Possibly even better, depending on your perspective.
I think you might be right, honestly.
Well,
I mean, definitely they're making more money than they've ever made. I mean, something just hit right. Like and I hate saying it, but I think Vince getting out was like the best thing that ever happened to the business.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'm not here to throw shade on Vince because regardless of all the stuff, it's still Vince, and we love what he's given us over the years. But dude, there's just a period where he just was holding on too long, and my God, it's gotten better. My God, it's gotten better.
Well, even too, man, just having the other options of watching stuff. Like you have your TNA that's really hot, that's partnered with WWE. Obviously, you have AEW out there, all the indie promotions like GCW out there that are running constantly that you can watch. Like the amount of options of wrestling to watch is just fantastic.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think about the time that I did start wrestling compared to now. And honestly, like when I did start wrestling, like when I started, it felt like, I was in this like new era because it was past the Attitude Era. Mm-hmm. But now looking back, I feel like that was ancient. Yeah. Like that is such an old era compared to like, could you imagine being a kid coming up in it now? Like the amount of options you'd have and like, oh, dude, it would be the funnest time.
We used to talk about like growing up as a kid. Like, could you imagine having wrestling on every night of the week? There's literally wrestling on every night of the week now.
Yeah. And so many different styles, right? Like, I don't follow it all the time, but I look in and it's crazy. Like you see like Edge is over at AEW and a lot of good people. And then I see some of the wild shit they're doing. Like, what was that deal with the 2x4 and all those nails? And you're like,
the spiked bat
suplex. Thing, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Are we just going for like, viral videos? Like the viral video is that important that we're just gonna like stab some nails in a guy's back and like it's wild, dude. It's wild out there. Like anything to get a viral clip now,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, then too, getting back to WrestleMania, how cool of a moment too was it for Joe Hendry? Like, who would have thought 5 years ago we're gonna see the TNA champion pop up on WrestleMania? Like, like that was just when his music hit, I was like, holy shit, I love it.
He just does that thing where he's like,
yep.
I don't know, dude. That shit's crazy.
Well, and then it's like I kind of laughed too when I saw people be like, "Oh, they buried him. They buried him." That dude is
they
just
buried
fine.
him. Who said that, dude? That guy's lucky he had that spot. Are you kidding me?
He had 60,000 people singing his song as he's walking down. He got a nice payday, and he faced Randy Orton at WrestleMania.
How about this? I didn't know who he was. Now I do.
Right? Exactly.
So, like, what are you talking about? And, just the fact that he got any moves, like Randy Orton made him look very, very good. Randy Orton does not have to let you do that. You know what I mean? Like, he let him look very, very good. And he even, like, kind of, even after he did the, the kind of the thing we want Randy to do, he, helps him up, and then he, like, still gives him another RKO, right? Which is what you want to see that happen. But he still, as he was leaving the ring, he gave him this nice little pat on the chest.
Yep.
Like shows like, hey, I respect you. You know, like that was awesome, dude. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
And what a rub for TNA too, because I've seen these people, they just buried the TNA champion, like Zach said. No, he's on the biggest show. Yes, he is another company's champion, but think about how much that elevated that championship, even in a loss to a 20-plus year vet. Especially with a loss to a 20-plus year vet.
I mean, I just can't imagine a world where we're saying that anybody's saying anything negative about getting a WrestleMania match against Randy Orton.
Right.
You know how huge that is? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is the coolest thing in the world. But I do think WWE's in a spot where, because they don't really have any real competition, that they just know helping all these companies only helps wrestling as a whole, and it's good for the fans. And I think they're in a spot where they can like start highlighting these other companies, and like I think it's like all rising tides like lift all boats type of thing, right? So like, I just think it's awesome, dude. I think we're in such a cool spot for wrestling.
Well, how cool is it too? I don't know if you've seen it, because it just kind of happened within the last week. They're gonna run it back with Randy versus Cena again. Like, we're gonna get another Orton versus Cena match. Like, that's fun.
Dude, when I saw that spot where Orton was talking, you know, Cena was talking, and Orton gets behind him, and as the audience, we see that Orton's behind him. He doesn't know he's behind him yet, and he's got his tongue out, and he's got that smile on his face, you know, and we know it's coming. And then I just love how Cena like turned around, and he still had the mic, and he's like, "Shit!" And then he grabs the mic, because it's too late. By the time he saw him, I loved how they did that whole spot. Was perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
And yes, to answer your question, being a fan that grew up when we did, to see Orton and Cena one more time, we should all be very, very thankful. Like, we get to see that. I think that's a Backlash.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, dude, Cena and Orton one more time. Like, who's not excited for that? Thank God. We need that, you know? I love it.
If we're going down this road of doing Cena and Orton, Money in the Bank is in June. Can we run him and CM Punk back?
Oh, dude, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially
I would love to see that, because you know what? Their rivalry was huge too, now that I think about it.
Yep, especially if Cena still has that title. Let Cena chase the title, or let Punk chase that title, and reignite the Cena Punk feud. Oh man.
You know what's amazing to me is like seeing Cena like as the new guy, to now he's retiring and has a bald spot, you know, and it's like that just shows like how our lives are we're definitely getting older. Like, it's pretty wild to me to see, like, you know, and also like the whole thing of seeing Cena start as a guy that was like, you know, people didn't like him at first because we loved our Shawn Michaels and our Triple H, and you know, there was this whole thing like an Edge, and like, oh, Cena can't wrestle, he's just the guy that they're pushing. And it's like, and now to see Cena put in so many years of work, you know, all the things that he's done, and to have gained everybody's respect, where he's just like he's probably one of the greatest of all time. It's really cool to see him in that spot now, you know, like, because we were with him, you know, think about all the, dude, you know what, another thing about Cena I liked was when Shawn Michaels had to wrestle him at WrestleMania, and then they had that match on Monday Night Raw, and like how much Shawn did to like make him legitimate, and so that all that shit would stop of like, oh, Cena can't wrestle, because when he did those matches with Shawn, dude, like after that, like how could you not like him? You know what I mean? Like, that was cool. I think Triple H was supposed to wrestle him, but he got hurt or something. But I just loved how Shawn like turned that guy legit. You know what I mean? Like, and that was my favorite Shawn era, was when he came back. You know, I love 90s Shawn. I love DX Shawn, but I always thought like everything he did after he came back is probably my favorite thing in wrestling ever.
Yes.
I tell people all the time when they talk about like wrestling hot takes, one of mine is that Shawn's comeback was better than his first run.
I'm with you 100%.
I can agree with that.
That's always been my
not to diminish his original run, because like his late 90s stuff, like against Bret Hart when he was kind of the shittier Shawn, it is hard to say he was like the best. I mean, but honestly, everything he did when he came back, dude, he was so much better. We almost forget that all of his best stuff was when he came back, really. Like, think about even how much better the super kick was.
Yeah.
Like, we always think of the super kick as, oh, the super kick. But it really wasn't the super kick the way we know it until he came back.
Right.
Because he would do it, you know, there was very little of that, you know, the super kick out of nowhere, stuff like that didn't happen before. That was after, right?
Yeah.
And it became like lore later, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So let's kind of get back into like your bodybuilding. So I know you really started recently getting into that, man. What was that like for you? Let's go to your very first bodybuilding competition.
Yep. So my first show. So I compete in men's physique, right? So there's different classes and everything. So basically, like I said, I started working with my trainer after I'd been a wrestler for many years, you know, and I'd always been in good shape wrestling. But then it was like, I started working with a coach, and I never thought of myself as a guy that could do a bodybuilding show, you know, even though I'd been in wrestling and I, you know, was athletic because of that. I never saw myself, like, I always had a really good physique, but I never saw myself as like the lean, chiseled, like body guy. You know what I mean? And it was weird. I started working with my coach, and then we just got, so it all comes down to diet, right? So I really learned how to use diet and meal plans, manipulate calories. And the first thing my coach did is like, I started working with him, but then before I ever did a show, he dieted me down, week after week. He got me to a point where like, all of a sudden I had abs, you know what I mean? Like I looked shredded. I was like, and I'm older than I've ever been. And I'm like, whoa, this is like better shape than when I used to wrestle. I'm like, what is going? And so then that gave me the confidence when I saw what I was capable of. I'm like, oh shoot. Okay. Let's do a show. So after he initially got me super lean and shredded, then he bulked me back up, which sucked because I had to watch all the abs go away. He had me on like eating tons. I was eating like bowls of cereal, dude. Like he was making me eat like giant bowls of cereal after my lift. And like, so then I think I got up to around 236 maybe, bulking up. And then we started the cut for my first show. And I'd never done a show, so I didn't know anything about it. But luckily, because of wrestling and everything, I had known, what it was like to diet but I will say doing a bodybuilding show is the diet's the hardest part, right? So like, cause you basically get to like where you're starving, and you're like, I mean, starving to a point where like, you don't have any energy. So like, even like the way I'm able to emote emotions right now, like when we get close to the end of our show, I mean, you're just like a zombie, like people like, what's wrong? You're like, nothing. You're just like, they don't get, they don't understand it. So I think it was really cool to like learn how to get through that. So I'd say that was hard. And then my first show was all right. Was pretty crazy to realize I could do that. It's just like wrestling. You don't know you're capable of something until you do it. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't know that I could do that. And then after that, I was kind of just hooked on it, dude. And then I did 2 shows last year, which were better than the first show. Like many things, you get better. And then now I'm going to do another show this year. So
what was that transition like from the wrestling ring into the bodybuilding world?
Very weird. Very weird. Because so for wrestling, I was used to getting in shape and used to, I always wanted to be one of the guys that was in shape. I always tanned. I worked out because that's something you can do that it can set you apart. Which I'm a dude that likes all body types in wrestling, so I think there's some. But me, how Nicky Free, I wanted to be the guy that had the belt. I wanted to be the guy in the main events. I always tried to work really hard to make sure that I was in that spot, right? So that meant dieting and whatever. But I will say the hardest different transition is like in wrestling, I was used to being big, athletic, and strong, but learning how to do bodybuilding. So maybe the lifting isn't that much different, right? But the hard thing I think is learning how to do the posing for stage. So like when I'm like wrestling, I got to be big and active and punch people, kick people, slam people, big athletic movements. And then it's almost like going from like wrestling into ballet, so I had to transition from like big athletic, masculine type of movements to this like more like precise, posing, graceful, more like a dance type of thing. So learning how to pose was the hardest part, dude. Like that, it was just really, really different. And, and then I think the hyper, the hypercriticalness of like how somebody looks is a little weird. Whereas in wrestling, it's more about performance and like obviously looks matter. But I think with bodybuilding's weird because it's weird. It's like it's a bunch of shirtless, oiled up dudes, try who looks the best. So I don't know. It's just very, very different, right? Like, yeah.
What is your favorite post-show go-to meal? So you got all done, your show's done. What's your favorite meal to eat once everything's done?
Dude, it's hard because honestly, I almost got to say it's like ice cream. Like, because it's obviously burger and fries and sushi. Sushi is a huge one. But I think there's something about those really bad sweets. Like I was, hitting up crumble cookie. You guys know what crumble cookies are?
Yep.
So it'd be, for me, it's like Cold Stone Creamery and crumble cookies were like my really, those are my Achilles heel when it comes to because I love Cold Stone ice cream.
Oh yeah.
You get all the mix-ins and stuff, and I don't know. I'd say like the sweets, definitely indulged in the sweets, and then I'd say burger, fries, and sushi. Those are the big ones.
And you being out on the West Coast, you probably get the really good sushi too, because everything's probably fresh.
Dude, our sushi's amazing. Yeah. It's actually funny because two of my clients, they got me, I don't remember if it was for my birthday or whatever, they got me $100 gift certificate for this really cool sushi place. And I couldn't find it. And I was like, fuck, because they're like, oh, after your show. And the other day, dude, I was in my car and I was like, I think I dropped something. And I was like going under the seat. I'm like, where is that? And all of a sudden I grab this thing and and I pull it up and it's like this $100 gift certificate for sushi from 2023. And I'm like, I wonder if this is still valid. I was like, shit. Yeah. So yeah, sushi's a big one, but yeah, our sushi is really good here. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your clients. I have a question we have a two-part question. When you have a first-time client, what is the best advice that you can give them as they're walking in the door? Yep. And is it the same advice that you give to someone who's been working with you for a while? Or do you have different advice that you give to someone who's kind of at a moderate to advanced level?
No, actually, I think it would always be the same advice, which is patience. I think it's the same for no matter where you're at, because when you're a beginner, you need the patience to know that it's going to take you a while to see results. And then even if you're a moderate lifter, like say, because there's newbie gains when you start. So then when you're somebody, like once you reach a plateau, you've already gotten in shape, but then you need patience again, right? And then I think that's the thing, is just patience with like realizing how long these things take. And then also I would say, like, don't view fitness as like a thing that's you do it and then it ends. Like you got to think of it as an ongoing thing that's for life. It's not like, because I think with the reward thing, we think of like, I'm going to do this thing and then I'll achieve it and then I'm happy and I'm fixed. And it's like, no. This is a battle every single day. You have to renew yourself over and over and over again, and it's a never end. So it's about how you live your life, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm going to suffer for 2 months and then my life's going to be perfect forever. It's like, no, this is a battle that's on you for the rest of your life. And if you let it win, you will have a miserable life. If you don't let it win, you will have a good, healthy life, right? But I know some people use the thing, it's called sweeping the floor analogy. So like if you sweep the floor every day, the floor is clean. If you let it go for a long time, now it's bad and then when you sweep it, it's even harder, right? So it's like, I think of thinking of things, and honestly, not to be too philosophical, like you can think about life this way too. Like life isn't something where we achieve happiness and then all of a sudden life's beautiful forever. It's like, no, it's an ongoing thing to create happiness over and over again. And that's the beauty of life, right? It's always a battle. So that's like, so yeah, just thinking about fitness as a long-term thing, patience, and then also just realizing it's like, it's always, and I don't know, it's just like, it's an ongoing thing and you do it because you love yourself. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So we're getting ready to wrap it up here, man. Where can people follow you at on the social medias if they want to reach out to you or just follow your journey? Where can people reach out to you at?
So for me, I got on Instagram, it's nickyfree.fit. And honestly, nickyfree.fit is my TikTok as well. And that's like all I really got right now. So yeah. Right. Obviously I had the Nicky Free podcast too for a while and everything. Yep. So that's but yeah, Instagram's probably the best place.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again,
do you guys have any other questions for me before we go, or like?
I think we're gonna table it for now because I feel like we can definitely bring you back on again.
Let's
because
do
you're
it.
so knowledgeable with this stuff. I'm like, you'd be a great second time guest to get on here. So for now, let's go ahead and kind of table this conversation for now, and we'll try to plan another time to bring you back on.
All right, guys. It was great getting to know you, and I hope you both do really good with your Zach. I know you're killing it. I hope you both do that. Just stay on top of it with your fitness.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys are on that journey.
Yeah, and I'll keep you posted, man. Like I said, as you saw, I've been taking monthly progress photos, so I'll keep sending those to you.
Yeah, dude, and you're killing it, man.
Yep.
Yep.
So, all right, Chris, you ready to wrap us up here, my friend?
Let's do it.
Chris, it was nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice meeting you. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you being a part of our journey.
All right, hang in the studio with us here, Nicky, and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
We are Wrestling with Fitness. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can catch Zach on Shotgun Wrestling Radio. You can catch myself with my partner Nick Bull on Card Subject to Change if you're interested in wrestling. But for now, we will see you next month, right back here, last Wednesday of the month, to for another episode of Wrestling with Fitness. Thank you so much for tuning in.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.